Yes, here we go. Start of a brand new week in the Spice Island. Good morning to you, everybody. I'm George Grant saying welcome to today's edition of Good Day Grenada. Yes, sir, Monday morning, and a very cloudy one this morning. Throughout the course of the morning so far, we've had some light showers, if you will, but nothing to really talk about. But looks pretty gloomy out there this morning. Hopefully, it's going to clear up as the day goes on. Well, this being a Monday morning, we do not have anyone coming in here to keep me company, and I'm so sad about that. However, we got some content for you. This morning, we're going to be treading along more uh, informative lines. We want to. There are certain things that you ought to know, and we're going to try and share some of that stuff with you. We're going to find out a bit about CARICOM. We're going to show you an opportunity to educate yourselves. Yeah, and we'll tell you how to start planning for those of you who have been giving some thought to moving to other islands because of the business climate here in Grenada. So yeah, a lot of informative stuff this morning. Good morning, Margaret, and good morning, Benedict. How are you guys doing? Hope everything's going your way. Hope the weather's cleared up a bit there in New York. I know you guys have been having a pretty rough time, and Fitzroy's also saying good morning and thanking God for another day. Huh? Yeah. Pilgrims, let's take a look at the rundown. CARICOM reaffirms great value of relations with Cuba. CARICOM. A lot of cynicism about CARICOM, but in all fairness, I do believe that they're trying. They just have not seemed to perform as well as the people of the Caribbean would have hoped they would over the years. But listen to what the latest coming out of the Secretariat has to say. They're reaffirming that there's great value in the relations which CARICOM has with Cuba, okay? So hang in there, we'll get to that in just a wee bit. Secondly, are you looking for a university education? Oh boy. Let me start by telling you I never had a university education. Presentation college, and then my training as a pilot. That's about it. Okay? Well, if you have been desirous of obtaining a university education, there's an opportunity out there. Listen, you'll find out in a wee bit. Then, of course, we do have the national report, as we try to let you know what our government is doing on our behalf. And then, finally, this morning, there's a program which has been put out on a regular basis by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. It's titled ECCB Connects. And I'm going to run you a segment this morning where they talk about the ease of doing business in OECS member states. Okay? So that essentially is your rundown for this morning. Now, let's get down to brass tacks. Even as the Caribbean community, CARICOM, on Friday, reaffirmed the great value it attaches to ties with Cuba, it reiterated its call for an immediate and unconditional end to the economic, commercial, and financial embargo which has been imposed by the United States on Cuba. Speaking at the opening of the 6th meeting of foreign ministers of CARICOM and Cuba on Friday in Georgetown, Guyana, CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque said that the recent action by the U.S. against Cuba revived memories of the tension and pressures of the Cold War. He recalled that it was during that time that Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, and Trinidad and Tobago indicated the courageous, or not indicated, I should say, initiated the courageous and symbolic act of forging diplomatic ties with the Spanish-speaking Caribbean island. Secretary General LaRocque stated that CARICOM rejected the unilateral and extraterritorial nature of the U.S. actions against Cuba. Chairman of the Council for Foreign and Community Relations, sometimes referred to as COFCOR, C-O-F-C-O-R, and also Grenada's Foreign Minister, Peter David, also strongly condemned the tightening of U.S. sanctions against Cuba. I quote, "We condemn in the strongest terms this tightening of the unjust U.S. economic, financial, and commercial embargo against Cuba. These actions run counter to the strongly held view that economic development and stability contribute to international peace and security in the Caribbean region, just as it does in other regions of the world. These developments in our region have the potential to affect our continuous efforts at sustained development of our countries." Unquote. That's what Peter David had to say. He said CARICOM prizes highly the links it has built with Cuba over the years through technical cooperation at bilateral and regional levels, trade and economic ties, the mutuality of interest and concerns in regional, hemispheric, and international fora, and the fraternal spirit that comes to the fore in times of disaster. Minister David said the history of CARICOM-Cuba cooperation was marked by Cuba's generosity, which resulted in the boosting of the community's human capital. This relation is a fine example of South-South cooperation, he stated. The meeting is one of the formal mechanisms through which CARICOM and Cuba discuss cooperation in areas of mutual interest. The mechanisms for dialogue also include Cuba-CARICOM summits. All right. That's a text of a release issued by the CARICOM Secretariat. Now, just before we move on here, let me not ignore you folks out there. Don't want you jumping on my back. Oh, Margaret. Margaret says, good. Great show yesterday in New York. Now, I think what Margaret, I'm pretty sure what she's referring to is that show where Ricardo Keynes Douglas and a whole slew of entertainment luminaries appeared. I think this was organized by Jerry Hopkin, an entrepreneur in the New York area. And yeah, when I spoke with Mags yesterday, she said she'd be going to that show, and apparently it was great. Last weekend, they also did that show in Washington, D.C., and I'm glad to hear that things went well in the Big Apple yesterday. Good morning, Pele Darbo. And Donna Joseph is saying good morning. to moi and our listeners. Arthur Langine is saying, good morning, Brother George and family from overcast New York. Well, boy, let me tell you, Arthur, you ain't alone. You ain't alone. And by the way, Arthur, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I believe that I have finally seen a picture of you on Facebook. Sometime on the weekend, I think it was. So now I can put a face to the Arthur Langine. Wish I could do that with every one of you folks. Let's see here. Donna Joseph says, CARICOM cannot even unite the Caribbean. They don't have the will nor teeth to stand up to the U.S. and harsh sanctions that they have imposed on Cuba over the 50-odd years. But Cuba is a resilient nation of strong people because the American embargo hasn't brought them to their knees. You know, I think that's one of the reasons why so many people have a great admiration for Cuba and are so sympathetic towards that island. The fact that they're just not bowing. They have certain convictions, they believe in them, and they stand by them come hell or high water. How many other countries have the intestinal fortitude to do that? That's not the only reason. Cuba, you know, despite the fact that Cuba may not be one of the wealthiest countries in the world, they are always so willing, so ready to reach out to others. And not just here in Grenada. Think back to 2004, what they did here for us, huh? Countries in need, they're there to lend a helping hand. And despite all the stuff that you hear, they have a wealth of talent, especially in the health industry. I was so shocked just a few weeks ago. I was talking to a friend of mine whose dad, mom and dad, lived in Florida. And I'd been trying to reach the father in Florida. And she said to me, George, and by the way, this is a very well-known person here in Grenada, formerly in the political arena, okay, in government, in cabinet. And she said to me, she said, you know, my dad is actually at a clinic in Cuba being treated. Now, can you imagine leaving Florida, the United States, to go to Cuba for treatment? I rest my case. I think that speaks volumes. Ashton Fletcher says, good morning, George. Has there been any concrete plans initiated by our government to combat the growing number of vehicular accidents in Grenada? I'm getting really fearful to get behind the wheel of a vehicle when I vacation there in July. Ashton, apart from, I don't know of any. I keep hearing all this talk about, you know, please don't be on the telephone, don't drink and drive, this and that, and hubba hubba ding ding. Well, to be fair, I think it was during the last week, I heard that someone has finally been charged with causing death by driving. Yeah, this incident happened, or the accident took place back in April, and somebody has now been charged with causing death through driving. So, you want to include that, and I think you should. But I just think all of us want to see more. You've got some mad people on the road out there these days, just absolutely insane. And you try to say anything to them, never mind the finger, it's the words that come from their mouths. Cut you off in traffic. What about the people who, you know, go speeding, racing on the Maurice Bishop Highway? And on and on and on. Yeah. Margaret says, they can't have a united position because anyone has a price, and each of these member countries sell themselves to the highest bidder. Max is referring to the CARICOM issue. Yeah. Yeah. We're united, but not united, Max. I think we're going to make you the head of CARICOM. Irvin N. Samuel is saying good morning and sending his blessings. And Arthur says, thank you for seeing my pic. Thank you for putting the pic up there, Arthur. Okay, folks, where are we? It's 16, just a little after 16 minutes past the hour. And let's just move on now to our next little piece here. I mentioned to you at the top of the program that there is an opportunity for those of you who have been dreaming of getting a university education. Well, the Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, and Religious Affairs, again, informs the public that the government of Grenada, in collaboration with the St. George's University, is offering scholarships to interested Grenadian nationals who wish to pursue bachelor's and master's degrees for the academic year 2019-2020. The deadlines are now as follows. This notice, by the way, was out some time ago, but apparently they've changed the date, so listen carefully. An adjustment has been made to the undergraduate deadline. Deadline of June 15th is no more. It has now been extended to June 28th of this year. For those of you desiring to take part in the graduate degree program, business administration, multi-sector health management, including international business, stuff like that, the deadline is now July 15th and remains unchanged. That's what they had initially issued, and that date remains unchanged. All applicants are advised of the following. Make a note. Applicants must first apply to the St. George's University for acceptance. That's one. Two, applicants must be citizens of Grenada. All right? Personal statements need to explain the applicant's financial need. 4, application forms for the scholarship can be accessed on the ministry's Facebook page, Human Resource Development Division /scholarship. Let me repeat that. The Facebook page, Human Resource Development Division /scholarship. Scholarship desk, I should say. Or you may simply write to the scholarship desk at the Ministry of Education via email. Okay? Scholarship package requirements. What you got to do. Scholarship application form. You need 2 reference letters, copy of birth paper and or passport biodata page, certified copies of your academic certificates, and you also need an official transcript. You need an acceptance letter. You need 1 passport-sized photograph and a personal statement. Now, having put all of that together, kindly submit 1 copy of all these required documents to the Human Resource Development Division /scholarship desk at the Ministry of Education on or before the deadlines that are mentioned above. Now, if that sounds a little bit confusing, you may simply want to contact the Human Resource Development Division at telephone numbers 440-2737 or 2738. Let me repeat those numbers. 440-2737 or 2738. Or send an email to them at scholarship desk. I repeat, scholarship desk, and that's one word, at gmail.com. Whew, that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. Just let me flick something here. Make sure that everything's hunky-dory so far. Yeah, so far things are going good. Now, back to social media. Donna Joseph says, Gigi, Cuba had a leader that led from the front, so the people had no choice but to be strong. Cuba had their bad side, just as all other nations. But when it comes to strength and forging ahead, trust the Cubans. I wish Grenadians had belly like the Cubans and work to improve themselves. For example, the Cubans have a very good healthcare system. Absolutely, girl. They even developed drugs to fight prostate cancer in men and lots more. They have also developed a drug from sugar cane that can fight high cholesterol, and lots more Cubans aren't giving up or selling their people and patrimony. Donna, you summed it up. You summed it up. These people have so much to be admired for. And let us never, ever forget what they've done for us. They have been stalwarts in helping this little country of ours. I also will admire the fact that you admitted they're not perfect. Neither is the United States, neither is Grenada, neither is England, Europe. We all have our little flaws. But sometimes it hurts when I see the way that tiny, underdeveloped countries get beat up on. Kind of hurts. All right. 23 minutes after the hour. We're going to take a little break here now. And when we come back, you'll see and hear the National Report.
This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle Loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation. Enjoy the carnival season. Have your dream wedding or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply.
Welcome home. Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company. Tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive. Motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary. Public liability. Professional indemnity. Directors liability. And wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Boy, yo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, you can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADA. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Spice Mass Corporation to pay out $345,000 in subvention. Details to this story and more in the National Report. Welcome back. With the details to the news for Friday, June 14th, I am Sherry-Ann Noel. The Spice Mass Corporation will distribute $345,000 in subvention among the various stakeholders of Carnival who have registered with the SMC to participate in the 2019 festival. This was revealed by the SMC CEO Kelvin Jacob during a brief handover ceremony at the SMC office at the GCNA building, Kirani James Boulevard on Friday.
Calypso, Mass, Queen contestants, Tailpan, and our parish committees. This evening, however, we will be paying subventions to two groups of these stakeholders, and we will be paying the parish committees this evening, and also the mass bands who have registered for competition thus far. So not all mass bands have registered as yet, so this evening, the payout this evening will be for mass bands that have registered so far, and that's traditional and fancy mass bands. So they will receive their checks this evening. And the purpose of subvention is to help these entities prepare for the carnival season. So to help them with their costumes, to help them with their craft, to help the tents in their setting up and their management, their getting their songs and etc. together. So it's a help that SMC is giving through the government of Grenada.
Jacob says the total budgeted amount, mass bands will receive $50,000 and the parish committees $25,000. The SMC CEO also used the opportunity to address the issue of the increase in registration fees for the participating stakeholders in 2019, saying it is basically warranted at this time.
We realize that over the years, the registration fees have been very low compared to the prices that SMC pays off. SMC has a lot of expenses, as you will know. Year after year, we hear about the debt of SMC, and these registration fees, it doesn't go back into building, fixing roads, it doesn't go back into the pocket of SMC staff, etc. It goes right back into spending on the artists, administrative costs, etc.
Public and private sector stakeholders have concluded a 3-day workshop on international standards on combating money laundering and the financing of terrorism as Grenada prepares for another round of mutual evaluation. The Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, mutual evaluation of Grenada will be conducted in June 2020. Ms. Joanne Daniel, Deputy Executive Director of the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force Secretariat, says the training was designed to assist Grenada authorities and stakeholders in their strategies for anti-money laundering and countering of terrorism financing.
The mutual evaluation assessment on site will take place in June of 2020. At that assessment and following that assessment, a report will be done which will be reviewed and adopted subsequently by the global network. So this is a report that says this is the strength of Grenada's anti-money laundering, counter-financing of terrorism and counter-financing of proliferation framework. Should the assessment not be one in a favorable outcome for Grenada, it has dire effects for the Grenadian economy and for the country as a whole. So at the end of the day, the Secretariat really invested the time here to ensure that all stakeholders are aware of the critical importance of a coordinated, cooperative approach in preparation for this assessment, and that at the end of the day, Grenada comes out with a positive and favorable assessment of its AML CFT framework.
The FATF recommendations are the internationally endorsed global standards against money laundering and terrorist financing, which increases transparency and enable countries to successfully take action against any illicit use of their financial systems. Carleen Delfish, Senior Compliance Officer at the Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, says the training has further enlightened them on the expectations relating to combating money laundering and terrorist financing.
My role now is to go back to my organization, review the 40 recommendations, ensure that our policies and procedures are in alignment with the 40 recommendations. I'm not saying that it is not, but just coming out of this workshop, conducting a review of our policies just to ensure that we are in alignment with what is expected internationally, and also to ensure that staff understands, what are the expectations. So if it's a situation whereby we would need to do further training, that will be done, and so that we remain compliant with what is expected.
The Honorable Emmeline Pay has been appointed acting Prime Minister in the absence of Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. Minister Pay will act in the capacity of Prime Minister until June 15, 2019, when Dr. Mitchell returns to the state. This is a National Report. More news after the break.
Every summer, the Spice Island of Grenada is transformed into the Caribbean's biggest party, Spice Man. Coming down to Grenada. Come experience the warmth of our people, trending theme fats, the revelry, the pageantry, and why we are the Jab Nation. The Kids Our Future shines on August 3rd in the Children's Carnival Frolic and the Junior Calypso Show. 7 beauties take center stage as the Queen of Carnival is crowned on majestic Thursday, August 8th. The prestigious Soca and Groovy Monarchs are crowned on Carnival Friday night, August 9th. Enjoy the pulsating rhythms of the Still Pan at the Junior and the Senior Panorama on Carnival Saturday, August 10th, and Real Steel, August 17th. The March Gras crowns the Calypso Monarch on Carnival Sunday, August 11th. 2 days of frolicking in the Caribbean sun kicks off on Monday morning, August 12th, with the biggest juve in the world, followed by pageant and Monday night mass. The creativity and splendor of our mass parades on the road Carnival Tuesday, August 13th. Join us in the Jab Nation of Grenada, August 8th to 12th for Spice Mass 2019. Many events, one carnival.
Welcome back. A new and quicker method of producing and harvesting potatoes could soon be taught in at least 3 schools. The method was demonstrated during a training session at the Chinese Agricultural Mission this week. Details from Karima Lewis.
A collaborative effort between the Southern Agricultural District of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Chinese Agricultural Mission at Lasages St. David has opened farmers' minds to a new and more yielding method to planting sweet potatoes. A training session on Wednesday at the Chinese farm at Lasages saw the involvement of agricultural extension officers, farmers, and 4-Hers. The session saw demonstrations from Chief of the Chinese Agricultural Mission, Sam Zhen, and liaison officer between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Chinese Agricultural Mission, Mary Sylvester. With this easier and more profitable method, Sylvester is convinced that it was well received.
I was very anticipated to do this one, because now that we have the scarcity of provision, I think the timing is good. We have good alluvial loam soil, and we have the planting material, and we into the rainy season now, so I think it was a very good timing. I think most people would have grasped it, especially the 4-H officers, know that they want to try it in 3 different schools, Roban Methodist, St. Michael's RC, and Cali's government. Even some of the farmers was very impressed that they want to try that method. It's a quick method, the Chinese method that you could use for harvesting or selected harvesting in a short time, 2 months rather than 3 months.
Chief Extension Officer within the Ministry of Agriculture, Randolph Shares, is encouraged by this new technique and is hopeful that it will be applied by farmers.
We are hoping that coming from this session today, that our farmers are going to try the new technique, compare it with how they normally plant, and at the end of it, they will do their own evaluation. At the session today, we had a number of extension officers, mostly from the Southern Extension District and also from the 4H unit. They observed the technique, they saw the results, and in going out and advising farmers, they will introduce that new technique to the farmers who are not here. We had students here from the 4H clubs. The students, we noticed that they were very eager. You know, in fact, they are the ones who got involved in planting and trying the new technique and so on. And we are hoping that they will go back and use the new technique in the school garden.
Retired employee with the Ministry of Agriculture and longtime farmer Gregory Hagley commended the ministry on such an initiative and relayed his excitement towards applying the method learned during the session.
I think the training session today was very important for some of our farmers, because what we have seen here today, the method of preparation of the sleep and planting is somewhat different, and particularly for the children who are here. You know, if we're looking at them as the children and farmers of tomorrow, it is important that you start now with them. The disadvantage between the production and of the Chinese and the production of the farmers, the difference is the method in which the Chinese do their land preparation. They use organic manure, they use NPK manure, and you know, it's different to most of the farmers who sometimes use only organic manure, or they use no manure whatsoever. It's different to it. But the whole juice about it is, I think that we were not accustomed with that method of using the 5 nodes of the leaf to plant and get the kind of production that you get in. So I'm going to try it and see if I'm successful, and then I can spread the news to other people.
Results from this new technique is expected 2 months after cultivation. For the Ministry of Agriculture, I am Karima Lewis.
And with this, we come to the end of the National Report for today, Friday, June 14th. I am Sherry-Ann Noel on behalf of the entire news team, thanking you for viewing.
Alrighty, folks, that edition of the National Report spurred a bit of activity there on Facebook. Margaret says, back up here. What type of manure besides organic manure did he say? Mags, I have to confess to you, I went to get myself a cup of coffee, so I missed that particular statement, which aroused your curiosity. But obviously it also aroused Benedict's curiosity, because he's saying here, I'm asking the same question. So sorry about that. If you want to explain, I'll try and share your explanation with the viewers. Benedict also says, where is the explanation of this new technique? Is it top secret too? I don't know, Benedict. I don't know. You know, I'm sure that many in Grenada may welcome an opportunity for new practices as far as agriculture is concerned. But I also think we need to be very cautious, because there's certain things we're not used to here. And because somebody is willing to dump it on you does not necessarily mean that you should wholesale accept. So there's some need for caution, and I just hope the Ministry of Agriculture has the goal, check things out before they just simply welcome everybody with open arms. Because folks, a lot of these people who try to impart their technology on us and their practices also engage in a lot of questionable practices. Okay, enough said. Let me see here. Irvin Wells, speaking about something earlier on, he said, George, that's where most of our Caribbean people failed and continue to fail. Governments of some third world and developing countries are quick to set policies and laws in place for their judges, courts, to send parents, especially fathers, to prison for not supporting or maintaining their child or children. But when we, the taxpayers, give them our hard-earned monies and tax dollars to equip the country to cater for our welfare and needs, and especially for those of our children and grandchildren, they squander the said monies on luxury for themselves and their families, and do nothing for us or our children or grandchildren in terms of support and maintenance. But none of these crooks end up in prison. This situation is rather unfair and abusive. It's high time for accountability. Irvin, I've been hearing this call for accountability for most of my life. Governments do what they want. And it's because we allow them to. Yeah, what you're doing is fine. Speaking out, more people should. But we'll have to go beyond that. We will have to go beyond that, because things are rapidly getting out of control. And not just here in Grenada, it's happening around the Caribbean as well. All right? Scroll back here. Arthur Langine says, I heard that the PM is back and put on a show at the airport. Arthur. Thanks for bringing that up. Arthur, for those of you who use social media for good, like myself, I salute you. For those of you who use social media for evil, I am appalled at you. You know where I'm going, eh? I won't say that whoever started that rumor, I'm sure that many of you in social media know what I'm talking about. Last week there was something going around about the Prime Minister being admitted to hospital with palpitations because he had an overdose of sexual enhancement drug and all of this, and on and on and on. I saw it on Facebook. Somebody also WhatsApped it to me. Folks, when I received the WhatsApp, I didn't even bother forwarding it. I forward a lot of stuff to people in my groups. I didn't. Because as soon as I saw it, just the wording tipped me off that there was something not too right here. Yes, I was correct. Pilgrims, I wonder why is it that we have become such an evil people, using a wonderful media, such as social media, for evil. We use it to be malicious. We lie. we hurt people's feelings, we jeopardize the image of our country. Yeah. All of that is covered in the Electronics Act. And you know something? If whoever started that wound up getting apprehended, you're going to hear a lot of people crying foul. They're taking away we rights. They're taking away we freedoms. BS. You have a lot of rights. So do I. You have a lot of freedoms. So do I. Let's use them for good, pilgrims. Let's use them for good. That was a nasty thing that was done last week. And who vex? Vex. But I feel I don't care how you feel about the Prime Minister. Don't lie like you folks did. Don't. All right, let's see. Margaret says, yeah, Benedict, I was looking for the new technique too. Margaret says, and did I hear that gentleman say we didn't used to use manure? I hope not, because I grew up with aunts who grew fields of potatoes. And as mucho cow, goat, and sheep manure they used to put in it. Absolutely, Margaret. We've all grown up in the same environment. All right? That's why I said we need to be cautious. We need to be cautious when these things are dumped on us. Pilgrims, I'm running behind time here. Let me take a little break and we'll come back.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
My name is Gudday Grenada. I've been a confectionery maker 16 years now. Well, as a child growing up, my grandmom always make fudge and always make any candies, cakes, as I remember. And I always have an interest in that, you know? It's like when I'm in the kitchen, I'm very happy. If you're making coconut fudge, you just grate the coconut, you squeeze the milk, and then you strain it, and then you add your sugar, and then you put it to boil. And then after, when you reach a certain stage, you get thick, so you got to beat it. Then after, when you beat it, you pour it out, and then wait for a few minutes to get hard, and then you slice it, you cut it, and then after you break it up, and then you package it. Yeah. Providing food fairs 16 years now. I remember when I just go dropping in the fudge, I was a bit younger too, and I met Miss Harris. So I went here and said, you know, I have a product here, some fudge. I was wondering if you all would be interested to take some fudge or candies from me. I showed her, she said, you look very nice, you know? So she said, I'll try it. So she told me to bring back some another day. So that's when I started, but Miss Harris took it from me, and then they would start, so, you know. I had a good relationship with them. Of course, I felt special, you know, at least somebody taking my thing local and, you know, other people could see it, because if it's, I just have it, not much people come, a lot of people comes in, they're foreigners. So it was kind of special, you know, and especially when I go in there, all the workers is very nice to me. If I pass and they say, Kizzy, you bringing anything this week for the thing finish? You know, they always look out for me. That's what I like. The atmosphere is nice in there. My name is Gudday Grenada. I work with Food Fair to provide you with sweet treats.
This summer, make your dreams a reality with a Co-op Bank Summer Sizzle Loan. Get up to $20,000 and qualify for a chance to win a staycation at Silver Sands. Go on a vacation. Enjoy the carnival season. Have your dream wedding or make home improvements. Make this summer sizzle with everything you want it to be. Visit your nearest retail banking unit for more details. Special terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Ryan, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Now, have you noticed how bare the streets of St. George's are these days? Even on Fridays and Saturdays. There appears to be little commerce taking place. And if the numbers seen on the streets are any indication of how well or how poorly business places are doing, then it's not a very good sign. Things are tough. Therefore, it's not at all surprising when you hear some businessmen talking about moving to other islands with the hope of finding more upbeat business environments. Although the grass may not necessarily always be greener on the other side. Just keep that in mind. But for those of you who are seriously having those thoughts, one of the questions you should be asking yourself is how easy is it to do business in the other ECCB member states? Watching the following video may provide some answers. Of late, the ECCB, Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, has been undertaking steps to improve the ease of doing business in its member states. Take a look.
Hi and welcome to ECCB Connects. This week we speak with Daniel Atherton, advisor in the Strategic Planning and Projects Department, about the work the ECCB is undertaking to improve the ease of doing business in its member countries. Stay connected. We'll continue in a moment.
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
Danny, welcome to ECCB Connects.
Thanks for having me, Sharmila.
Danny, we have heard the governor mentioned in several of his speeches that one of the plans of the ECCB is to improve the doing business ranking of its member countries. This is a World Bank assessment. What does the World Bank doing business measure or investigate?
Doing business has to do with assessing the readiness of any country for facilitating business. The entry of an investor, he starting a business, the processes in the country relative to the business, and the ability to transact legally and to repatriate profits. There are a series of legislation and regulatory measures, and it's meant to help businesses and countries see how well they're performing in terms of, their distance from the frontier in terms of development.
And of course, with foreign direct investment being an important component of national development of the member countries, this of course is important. Let's now look at some of the key indicators the World Bank doing business measures.
World Bank doing business measures 10 specific indicators, or what they call parameters, but they measure for 11. One that includes some international labor organization related metrics. The parameters include, but the list is not exclusively, it's comprehensive. You have starting a business. How do you access credit? How do you enter into contracts? How do you treat with insolvency? How do you deal with trade across borders? And how do you access finance for businesses? Those are just some of the key ones.
Based on the last World Bank Doing Business report, of these key indicators that you just mentioned, which ones do ECCB member countries need to improve on?
ECCB member countries need to improve on their ability to become more competitive. And to become more competitive, it means that they ought to put in place those measures that allows for easy access to external markets or the easy entry into the country. So therefore, matters that have a legal nature, they need to ensure that, you know, the laws are in place. They need to ensure that the procedures, the time, and the costs are competitive with other places. So it is absolutely necessary for them to pay attention to registering procedures relating to the amount of time that it takes, minimize this amount of time, and costs, because every additional activity means an addition to costs, which means being less competitive in the global arena.
Danny, in this doing business measurement, there are 190 countries. Where do the ECCB member countries fall in the ranking?
Our 6 independent member countries fall between rank number 93 to 147. That's in the bottom 2/3. This is not bad by any real measure, because if I give you by way of example, some countries are just coming on. If you have 4 new reforms out of 4, that's 100%. But if you have 4 reforms out of 120, that's a very small percent. So it's a law of relativity when it comes to ranking. However, we must say to you that because of some of the underlying constraints in the measurements, you know, of the system, we find that it's really a challenging thing for us. But we have taken it on with the governor's motivation to all of the member countries to ensure that we work towards getting in the top 50. And this requires a particular set of activities at the policy level, a particular set of relationships, public-private partnerships, and some hard work at the competitiveness level, at the individual and firm level in the private sector within the countries.
You mentioned that the ECCB is putting measures in place to ensure that its 6 member countries who are part of this ranking move up to be within the top 50. What will this mean for the countries?
First, it means access to new frontiers. It means becoming greater beneficiaries of global trade. In order to do that, it requires some work at the government side, and it requires work on the private sector side. Therefore, ECCB's role is advocate-in-chief. We use our convening powers to facilitate, you know, public awareness, public education. Our governor is advocate-in-chief, you know, in terms of working with his strategic partners. And so there is a very strong role for the ECCB at that level. There is also another role at our technical level, where we work with what we call the reform offices within countries to provide them with information in a timely manner and to facilitate them in becoming more familiar with the methodology that is used for data capture, to ensure that they provide the information on time and have it transmitted so it can be calculated and measured within the proper period.
Okay, you mentioned reforms, and the ECCB has identified some reforms that will help the member countries achieve this position being in the top 50. Tell us a bit about the reforms.
Well, the ECCB has been working on reforms, and the reforms focus on access to credit. And so the ECCB has inserted itself in the equation in terms of the Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation. The ECCB has facilitated, the establishment of the soon-to-be fully functional Credit Bureau. Credit Bureau and credit registries are critical parts of business and business development. In terms of starting a business, in terms of trade, ECCB has been advocate again in chief when it comes to encouraging the countries across the currency union to ensure that their customs compliance, are of the highest standard and order. And in terms of legislation, making sure that they're updated to facilitate the development on the national level and on the international stage. In addition, we have the land registry, which is a very important part of modernization as it relates to land ownership, land availability within countries, and all of those rules and ordinances related to, the accurate transfer of properties from one individual to another.
Danny, you mentioned briefly that the member governments have an important role to play in these reforms for improving doing business in the region. What is the role for businesses and the people?
The role for businesses and individual entrepreneurs to ensure that there is transparency, to ensure that there is enhanced productivity, to ensure that established benchmarks and areas for making sure that things are done correctly, on time, at low cost, and taking away some of the extra procedures. They want to make sure that because these are the key measurements of doing business. You want to make sure that whatever you do it efficiently and you do it cost effectively.
In short, making it attractive for investors to want to come, to want to do business and continue doing business.
That's why it's called the ease of doing business, not the difficulty of doing business. So we want to make sure that persons find it easy to approach the place, to get directions to the particular documentation that is required, and to make sure that they have those documents completed on time and accurately so they can be properly measured.
And of course, this boils down to ordinary citizen, because with investment, it comes employment opportunities for training.
Yes, and which is a very important part of this doing business. Actually, it spoke to training. Training was the key theme, because what they found out is that in all of the areas where there was training of all of the technical people, whether on the government side or on the private sector side, that it worked to greater advantage, that public education and awareness and the training of the people so they were competent to deal with the various problems that they were confronted with.
Danny, thank you very much for speaking with us on ECCB Connects.
Thank you very much, Shermala.
To view any episode of ECCB Connects anytime, any place, at your convenience, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn at ECCB Connects.
We've come to the end of this week's episode of ECCB Connects. Remember, ECCB Connects is produced by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you. Join us again next week for another program.
Thank you very much, Shermalon Kirby and the ECCB. Those come out sometimes every week, sometimes every month. And whenever they do, we publish them on the GRENADABROADCAST.com website, so you can go check them out. All right? Now, there are some comments that came in, some not actually related to the piece you were just looking at from the ECCB, but I want to share them. I want to share them with you. Irvin Samuel says, George, as one of our great voice and media ambassadors, please inform our folks that Grenada is no longer the second largest producer or exporter of nutmegs and mace in the world. Now we're not even in the 5th position. Sad. We need to be fighting back for that spice reputation more than anything else. You remember those days, Irvin? Yeah, man. Yeah. Gone are the days. Will we ever get them back? Hopefully. Gonna be a hell of a fight. I'm not yet sure that we have the willpower. It's possible. Everything's possible. But do we have the willpower? Don't know. Ryan Jaban says, is that free SGU undergraduate education? What about the doctorate level? Ryan, I gave some contact info earlier on, and I'm going to repeat it. Human Resource Development Division, the scholarship desk, okay? And that's at the Ministry of Education. You can reach them by phone, 440-2737 or 2738, or by email, scholarship desk, I repeat, scholarship desk at gmail.com. He also goes on to say the mutual, enduring, and deep relations between Cuba and the OECS cannot be ended by the USA. Ryan, I think the story was referring to CARICOM, not just the OECS. Kipling says, it seems like to know the truth from some reporting, one has to think of the opposite of what is being said. Of course, not on GG, where the truth is respected. Kipling, yeah, Kipling, we do try to tell the truth. And let me tell you another truth. You know, that stuff that was being circulated, I don't know. I have not proven it to be the truth. I have not proven it to be an untruth. Kipling, we may never know. I don't know. What I thought was sick was that somebody had the gall to publish that stuff that was published. It's in poor taste. Simple. Poor taste. Okay. I think that's it. Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy is going to pull the plug, but as always, leave you with a parting word from the Holy Scriptures for today's inspirational. James chapter 1, verses 2 to 6. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. James chapter 1, verses 2 to 6. Nice note to leave you on. Arthur Langine says, very informative show. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you. We mean well. We mean well. And boy, I am so proud of you folks out there for standing by me. I really do appreciate it. On that note, Georgie Porgy is going to take a hike, if you will. Yeah, man. Had brekkie already, so I can't say I'm going to feed my face, but I just want to thank you and invite you to join us again. Tomorrow morning, hopefully, we'll have Ray in here. Boy, I want to hear what he has to say about the Windies tomorrow. Yeah, Ray should be in tomorrow morning. In the meantime, may the good Lord bless and keep you. Thanks again.